Okay, hi, this is Cassidy and Kyle. Trigger Point Tuesday once again. And the thing that we want to talk about today is the shoulders. Whether you're a swimmer, you're a runner, you're a CrossFitter, or a weekend warrior, the shoulders typically tend to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. Now, for me, what happens is, Pec Major Minor gets tight, I rotate my shoulders forward, then the arm doesn't function as properly. Just if I grab my shoulder and pull, all of a sudden I lose total range of motion in my arm. Why does that happen, Kyle?
When we're in the positions that we're in most of the time, even if we're active or not, that kind of position, our body will start to adapt to it. It's called the SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demand. To where from repetitive movement, remember lack of movement is still repetitive, it will start to actually grow together. The body will lay down muscle fibers that grow one layer to the next. Whenever you try to move outside of that, it just sticks. It can't move.
So, I've heard a lot, obviously we teach a lot about fascia, and there's one thing called fuzz, and if you can catch that fuzz at the right moment, then it's gonna allow you to still have great range of motion, right? But if you allow that fuzz to kind of cake into the muscle, set into the muscle, therefore it really becomes very difficult to move the muscle. And if I've got one muscle on top of the other and I have fascia in between it and then I have this superficial fascia, ultimately that's going to restrict the range of motion whether I'm sedentary or not, dehydrated and still trying to move. Am I going to tear up the muscle by not allowing that fascia to move as freely as one would like?
Absolutely. It goes back to the nervous system. The nervous system can't recruit isolated muscles. It has to work in what we call force couples, so it is a muscle pattern. Now, if those muscles have adhered together because that fascia has stayed too long, the nervous system ultimately doesn't know what to do. It's still going to move you from point A to point B, but it'll tear up anything in the process if it's not a natural range of motion.
Interesting. So we're talking about torque, we're talking about friction, we're talking about reduced movement based off of the pattern. Look how I'm standing right here. I think I look pretty cool. I got my arms crossed over. This is how I typically stand when I'm listening to people, but look at my shoulders. All of a sudden, my shoulders are really being forced to rotate forward. Look at, if I were a runner and I'm running here and I keep looking at my watch, what does the shoulder do? The shoulder rotates forward. And then if I'm a swimmer and I can't get over the barrel, what happens? The shoulder drops down. All of these things cause in Pec Major Minor to kind of bind up, and as it binds up once again, I'm going to lose that distal movement, correct?
Mm-hmm. And we can't get lost up here. Remember that Thomas Myers said that superficial front line, we have the rectus abdominis is going to tie into all of those muscles. So if it gets restricted here in the abdominal region, locks down the rib cage, and if we can't get that thoracic extension, then we can't get this up either. So we have to treat all the way through there.
Right, so then let's talk about chin position and head position. If my head goes forward, what does that do? Does that add weight to the body?
Yes, adds weight to the cervical spine, so the muscles have to fire against that and try to hold it up.
So then I go in and kind of protect myself once again, and then the shoulders bind up, and all this lengthens past its capacity, right?
Yes.
So there's a trickle-down effect there. So basically what I want to do, I already rolled out the left side so that everybody knows. And so what you can see is I've got great range of motion on that left side, and we typically see a lot of issues on the left side of the body because it doesn't do too much for most people. Now for me, if you see here on the right side, I haven't rolled it out. I am left-handed. I use my left hand more than anything. You see the restricted range of motion right there. So what I'm going to show you guys is, let's go through some of our we've got new mashing and scrubbing techniques. If you go to Idea PT this week, you'll see some of that new programming. But here's a great way. We're going to utilize the grid and the TP ball here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to work through scrubbing and mashing the abdominal region. I'm going to really address that front line. And then I'm going to go up into the shoulder, Pec Major Minor as well. So what we actually do is, this is great. Grab a pole, grab a doorway, grab a wall, whatever you want. And I'm going to position the TP ball just off of the belly button here. And so what this allows you to do is kind of lean into the TP ball, take a deep breath, and we're going to mash side to side. And here's the great part about the grid, is after I mash side to side, then I'm able to guide where I want to really put the pressure in, and I'm going to smack, really deep breath and release, and we're going to scrub through this entire area. Now we've got different zones that we're going to address now. We're going to go through, we're in zone 2 now, down near the pelvic floor is zone 1, zone 2, and then we're going to work our way all the way up. Kyle, where am I right now?
So here you're getting zone 4, so we're getting right below the rib cage up into the diaphragm. We have to be sure that diaphragm gets a little bit of attention as well. Typically hard to get to from a self-massage application, but with the TP massage ball, you can anchor in, work right on the bottom of the ribs, and get some of that fascia that surrounds that area.
And the benefit is I'm not really working out as I'm doing this. I'm just applying weight. Now we'll go into Pec Major Minor. And the beauty here is I can go directionally, whichever way I want to roll through the muscle. I'm able to guide with the grid, my fingers being inside of the grid, to be able to kind of move through that. And the channels of the grid, locking the ball in place, allow me to work through all that tissue. Now, of course, I love using the elbows out with a block, but this is a real efficient way. You can see it lumping right over that. I'm just going to scrub through side to side. Got some nice crap in there. I think that's a technical term.
And as you mentioned, with going different directions, especially here in this pec area, the pec minor and the pec major essentially run in different directions. So as long as we can get through there in different directions, we can separate those fascial layers and get that natural range of motion back.
Yeah, so we're going to decrease the friction there. We're going to put some liquid force between the two. And what you can probably see is maybe a little reposition in the shoulder there. Let's go back to my test here. Now we go to this. There's my left arm. Still got great range of motion there. And then now let's look at my right. And that's awesome. I mean, you see the natural range of motion there just with that right side. You can see that the lat isn't as locked up now. So I've got greater range of motion, which is going to give me also greater torso rotation, once again for swimming or for golf. But as a runner, as a CrossFitter, it's very important to be able to get the arms above head, not jeopardize the spine through that whole process, the T-spine area, and then freeing that shoulder up to have greater range of motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to agree. You're able to get that arm up there without getting any excessive extension from the lumbar spine, which means it's a nice neutral position for the spine, decreases compression to those intervertebral discs, and ultimately that's what we need to offset low back pain as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that nobody ever thinks about. When you lose shoulder mobility, you'll try to find it somewhere else. You'll either go to lower back L4-5 area, or you'll go into the T-spine region. Bottom line, this is one of those creative, cool ways to use your grid, use a TP ball to get into the muscle tissue, allow that freedom to move, free up that fascia, and in the end, give you greater range of motion and hopefully a better performance. Well, once again, this is Cassidy Phillips and Kyle. This is Trigger Point Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.